Hey everybody, welcome back to Tech Talk Education. Glad to have you. Dr. Heldman here. Welcome to the new year. Happy New Year. In this video, I want to talk about something that's going to be important to you, especially if you are a cybersecurity student. We need to talk about a topic called Base64. It's an encryption technique. And so let's get started. This should be informative and fun. All right, so we want to start out by understanding what Base64 is and why we want to use it. It's very important to people who are working with cybersecurity. You will encounter this quite often when you're going through different YouTube videos or classes or whatever. They will convert something or deconvert it from Base64 to regular or regular to Base64. And it is an encoding scheme. It converts binary data into a text format. Now you should be aware that it is not encryption. It doesn't keep data secure. That's not the point with Base64. It's designed to transmit data rapidly over the wire, so it's easy to store and easy to transmit. In order to understand the way that Base64 works, it works with a few characters taken from the ASCII table. What is the ASCII table? The American Society for Computer Information Interchange. And what it is it's a table. It's a very old table. It's been around a long time. And the idea is that numbers were assigned to certain keys on the keyboard or things that are happening in the computer. These numbers could be used to reference a specific letter or number or special character, what have you. So this is the ASCII table. And it starts out with number 0 is null, number 8 is backspace, number 7 is bell, the escape key is 27. Now you get different designations for each ASCII character. So there's a decimal number, a hexadecimal number, an octal number. Octal was used by mainframe programmers back in the day because we had to store a lot of data in a tiny area, and octal happened to be very helpful for that. And then we have a character. Later on, what you see over on the next column over is we actually introduced an HTML character set. For example, if I wanted the space bar in HTML, I'm writing a web page and I want to show a space, I do an ampersand hashtag 32 semicolon, and that will produce a space in HTML. Well, we're using the ASCII table to look at Base64, or to create Base64, and it consists of just two special characters. There's the plus sign here, number 43, and there's the slash key, number 47. And then there are numbers 0 through 9, uppercase letters A through Z, lowercase letters A through Z. And you should note that it's interesting to me that the uppercase letters come first. So the A is 65, cap A, cap Z is 90, lowercase a is 97, lowercase z is 122. And for you Canadian viewers, Z, I should say Z. I like saying Z a lot. Okay, so that's the ASCII table. Now what's happened is Base64 makes use of some of the things that are in there. Like we said, plus slash 0 through 9, cap A through cap Z, little a through little z. And the idea is not for encryption. This is not for security. What it is converting something into something that allows us to move across the wire efficiently. Now there are a bunch of different Base64 encoders and decoders. Here's one. This is Base64encode.org. You'll have to pick out your favorite. There's a whole bunch of them. But there is one thing I want to let you know about. When you encode Base64 with an encoder, very often what's going to happen is you're going to get the little letter B, and then on the end of that you're going to get a special character. So we want to get rid of the B, and that happens when you turn on UTF-8 here. So there's a way to programmatically turn on UTF-8 so it strips that B off of there. It's in the front of the Base64 thing that you're doing here. For example, let's try this. So I'm going to encode to Base64 format, and I'm going to do a favorite phrase of mine. Now is the time. The time has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things. Now, even though we are using the ASCII table here, and we're limited to certain letters and stuff when we're dealing with Base64, you can come here, like you can say, the time has come, comma, the time has come, the walrus said, comma, to talk of many things, ellipsis. All that's going to work just fine. And when we encode it down here in the bottom, you'll see that it says this string right here. And that's what we mean when we're talking about Base64. So it's all even Steven here. What you're not seeing here is on the end where the U is at, you don't see the plus or the slash. And on the left-hand side, you do not see a B. The little b means that this thing has been encoded in Base64. By enabling UTF-8, we turn that off. Now, this is just one Base64 encoder. There's a million of them online. You pick the one that you like. And I like this guy a lot. So this is Base64 Guru. This is very interesting to me because what it's telling you here is that Base64 can be used for other things besides just text. I could convert Base64 to ASCII characters, but look, I can convert it to an audio, to a file, to hexadecimal, to an image, to a PDF, to text, or to video. Well, so the point here is that anything going across the wire, you're playing a game online, right? Or you're listening to, like YouTube, you're listening to music on YouTube. That music is coming across to you via Base64 because it's all evenly broken up and it's efficient to transfer it. And really what's happening is we're looking at on and off signals. So when we go over the wire like that, the only thing we really have is if a bit is turned on or a bit is turned off. That's why a binary is so useful. But the point here is that Base64 can take a song and convert it into this code for efficient shipping over the wire. So I have an encoder. I can convert audio to Base64. I can take, and you may not know what this is, cascading style sheets. This is a web development tool that allows you to put colors and cool looking things on the screen. That's cascading style sheets. I can convert that to Base64. A file, hexadecimal, HTML can be converted to Base64. An image can be converted, PDF, text, a URL, and video. So this is amazing that we can convert things to Base64. Now here I've selected text to Base64 right here. I'm in Base64.guru. And what I want to do is the sample that we're going to work is the word hi exclamation point. H-I, capital H-I, exclamation point. We're going to encode this text. And it gives me 64 Sam Golf Kilo Hotel. Cap S, cap G, lower K, lower H. That is what Base64 looks like. And it looks really odd to look at it because you're like, well, I couldn't possibly interpret that if I had to, if I did not know about, say, Base64. So that's the point. Now, how does it work? So I'm going to use Excel to show you how it works. I like Excel because I can use cells to do different calculations to prove to me that something is working. So let me show you what I'm looking at here. Here's Excel. I have hi here, and I've separated these out into individual cells. Cap H, little I, exclamation point. The first thing that you do when you're doing this, and you're not going to do this, this is something that Base64 does, but the idea, the theory behind it, the algorithm behind it is this. First thing you do is you convert it into its ASCII. So the way that you do that in Excel is you use a function called code. There's a code function here, and I'm telling it, convert this uppercase H to the ASCII code, which happens to be, I'll hit escape here, 72. The I is 105. The exclamation point is 33. Let's go see if that's correct. I'll just come over here to the ASCII table real quick, and I'm going to look up 72. Sure enough, cap H, and little I is 105, and the exclamation point, where'd that rascal go, is right there, and that's 33. So that's correct. So Excel did a good job, as we would expect it to do. But the concept here is you take whatever string it is you're looking to convert. Each of those letters becomes an ASCII character. That's the importance of ASCII in this. The next thing that you do is you take these numbers and convert them into binary. Now to do that in Excel, you do equals desc to bind. And what it will do is it will take the cell that you're pointing to and convert it to binary. And this comma 8 here means that I'm forcing it to show 8-digit binary. And so that's what you have here. So the number 72 in binary is 01001000. 105 is this, 33 is this. The next thing that you do is you break these 3 out into 4 groups of 6 bits right now. So what we have now is I have 8 times 3, I have 24 bits. These are all 8-bit segments. I'm going to convert it into 4 6-bits. Now you might be inclined to start counting from the right. When I work with binary, I always start counting from the right because the point value occurs, the lowest is on the right. So this number 1 here means that the number 1 bit is set, but it's only worth 1 point. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. So when I'm working with binary, you have to get accustomed to counting from right to left so you can figure out the point value or what this thing adds up to in the binary. But we don't do that with Base64. What we do is we break them out evenly. So here I've come in and I've gotten 6 bits. 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. Is that what I have? 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. Good. Now I've got 2 zeros left over, so I introduce those here. 0, 0, then I start out 0, 1, 1, 0. And you get the idea. So I've converted these in from 3 24 bits, 8 times 3, 24, 3 8-bit values to 4 6-bit values. And then I turn around and convert those into a decimal number. And that decimal number winds up being SYKH in Base64. So that's the way that the algorithm works. Now I've put some puppies here because I want to show you, I just want to show you the pictures because what we're going to do is programmatically take these puppy pictures and convert them into Base64 as well. Now you can prove this to yourself with just a little bit of Python coding. You're looking at Python here. I really like JetBrains. There's a company, they're in Europe. They've gotten very, very famous for their IDEs, their integrated development environments. And this one is called PyCharm. It is available to you in PyCharm Community Edition. I think it's fabulous. I use it all the time, especially when I'm teaching Python. And what I've done here is I've come in and put in a default header so you can see that I've got a header here that's telling you what this is and what I did. And then what you can do is you can import a library into Python called Base64. This is part of the core Python code. I don't have to go out and force it to import another library because it's part of the default Python build. Here's the encoding section. So you should know that in Python, triple double quotes represents a block quote, meaning I can have an entire paragraph in here. A hashtag means a single line code. So what I'm telling you is that this is a comment, and I'm just telling you that we're encoding in this section. So what I do is I come in here and I have the original. That could be hello Base64, for example. And then I'm going to create a variable called encoded. I'm calling Base64 here out of the library. I'm going to call this function Base64 encode, original.encode, and I'm going to strap on that UTF-8 there, and then I'm going to print it out. I also have a decoding section here. Decoded is the same thing, except for Base64 encode. Instead, it's Base64 decode. I'm going to decode encoded dot decode, and I print out decoded. So it's a lot to look at, but it runs just fine. Let me run it for you and show you what it looks like. And there's what it looks like. Now you can see the B that I was talking about. So you've got a B, a tick, and an ending tick. This part in the middle here is the Base64 for the word hello Base64. And you can see that the encoded worked fine and the decoded worked fine as well. Now we can take that a little bit further. So you'll notice here that in the library I have puppy1. You can open these things up and look at them in PyCharm. So let's look at this puppy. There he is right there. And there is puppy2. And there is puppy3. And there is puppy4. So these are in my Python project here. Now what I want to do is I want to take these things and read them and convert them into Base64 in serial. So one at a time. I just want to grab each one and convert it into Base64. Here's what that looks like. So we've got the code here. It's not a lot of code, is it? I've got the common header here. I always teach my students to use a default header when they're writing Python code. In this case, I imported OS, which is another part of the main Python code, so it's known about to Python, as is Base64. Now there's a library that Python does not natively know about called Pillow. And so the way that you import that is you come up here and you say Python packages, and you look for Pillow here, and then you tell it to install it. When you're referring to Pillow, you don't call it Pillow, you say from PIL, so it's got this name attached to it. I'm going to import a section called image, and I'm going to do something so that I can take Base64, I can take images and convert them into Base64. Now this is really interesting to me because this is super basic Python, but it's very powerful Python, and it gives you an idea about why Python is such a desirable language to use among the people that are involved with cybersecurity. So this define keyword means that I'm going to create a function. This is called a Python function. I'm going to call it image to Base64, and I'm going to type in an image path somewhere. So I'm going to point it to my images that I have in the project. This clause here, with, means that I've got a file I want to open. So with, I'm going to open inside image path. I'm going to open it as read and binary as an image file, and I'm going to Base64 encode it. So I'm telling it to read this file, and then I say my folder path is this. So what I'm passing in is I've got this folder path, I'm pathing it out here. I have a for loop here that's running. I say for some file name in list directory folder path. Well, what does that mean? Well, I come over here to my folder path. Here's my folder path. I'm going to list the directory, and I'm going to find all of the files in here. I don't want them all. What I want is just the JPEG. So I'm going to limit it to if file name ends with JPEG right here, I'm going to do something with it. So the image path is going to be this guy here. I'm building the image path now. Image path is going to be OS path, this guy right here, dot join, folder path with file name. So join is a very funny Python function. What it does is it takes two things, puts them together. And so what we're saying here is we're saying take this path and then add the file name to it. And then I'm going to convert an image to Base64 at the image path. And then I put out a print here. I print out Base64 for file name so-and-so, and I'm printing out whatever the decode is on this. Now, when you run this Python code, you get significantly longer Base64 code. Why? because this photo is enormous and there's a lot of data in it. But the point is that I can take this photo and convert it into Base64. So I'll run this. It's very fast. And there you can see the very last one. That's this guy right here. Got converted. And I come up here, and this is all the Base64 code for this particular image. So that is how somebody would use Python to do some Base64 encoding or decoding. Now, why is this helpful to you? Well, like I said, as you're going through and you're watching these different YouTube influencers and they're solving rooms in Try Hack Me or Hack the Box or VulnHub or wherever, a lot of times they'll jump in and go, this looks like Base64 to me. And the hint, of course, is the B on the front, BTIC. But once I know that it's Base64, I can jump into a converter and I can convert that Base64 code to whatever it is I'm looking for. So that's really the point. The thing to remember is that Base64 is not an encryption tool. It is not used to secure files. All it's doing is it's putting things out into an even section of characters, and then it makes it all very, very simple and quick to send over the wire. Keeping in mind that over the wire means when this stuff is moving across the internet, it's really not the characters, it's a series of on and off switches. It's just bits. An electrical signal is on or it's off. That's a very, very key thing to remember. Everything we do, whether it's Halo or some other game you're playing or an image or a video or a song or whatever you're doing, when you're sending that over the wire, it is always nothing more than an electrical signal, on or off. We're not sending raw characters, we're sending representations of raw characters across the wire, and that's why Base64 is so useful to us. I hope this was helpful to you, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, tell others about my channel. I'm trying to grow the channel. I deleted it accidentally last June, and I had to rebuild it and start all over. I had quite a vast amount of people watching it, and boom, I just got fat-fingered and deleted it, and now I'm in rebuild mode. And, subscribe, like, tell your friends about it. Feel free to comment. I love the comments you guys leave me on my YouTube videos. And thank you, and have a great day, and Happy New Year again.